Welcome everyone to the Virtual LTC Treasurers Sessions. My name is Jenna Davis and I am part of the Chapter Relations team here at HFMA. To kick off today's session, we would like to thank our 2020 LTC sponsors, Parallon, Patient, Russell Investments, and Cenex. We are so glad to see so many of our dedicated volunteers here today to join us. Our goal for this virtual LTC conference is to share resources available as you embark on your leadership year in 2020-21. Today we have a special series just for treasurers. Steve Saldivar, HFMA's Director of Finance and Accounting, and Perla Gallegos, Staff Accountant, will share information and resources with you on standard operations, annual financial review, 990 reporting, QuickBooks, and more. Then you'll hear from your peer, Kristen Zabrowski, who's the Region 2 Treasurer and a Chapter Advancement Team member, who will share her best practices and tips with you on using CVent reporting in your role as a treasurer. We'll wrap up the session today with a live Q&A with Steve and Perla. We'll be using the interactive tools with Mentimeter to get crowd participation. There will be live Q&A during the conference, so put your questions into the Q&A pod, so we can address those at the end of the presentations live. We'll also be using the chat pod to share information and tips during the session today. So just a couple of quick tips before we get started. If you're viewing a webinar where a screen is being shared and the presenter's view is simultaneously running, you do have the ability to change the size of the shared screen and the presenter's video. In the space between the shared screen and the presenter's video, hover over the border of the shared screen and your cursor will change to a double-sided arrow, allowing to enlarge or reduce the size of your shared screen. Then this will also change the size of the presenter screen. Let's start today's session with a few polls. And I've got Brianna in our Chapter Relations team who is going to be running these for us today. So let's get kind of just, how's everybody doing today? I don't know about you, but I'm ready for the weekend.
I'm with you, Jenna.
I am ready.
So everyone, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brianna.
So as you can see at the top of the screen, to vote in these polls, you just want to log into www.menti.com and then input the code that's at the top of the screen there, 586969.
I think a lot of us are ready for the weekend.
Of course, I like to be like Dory too, you know.
Yes,
just
yes.
Keep going. We'll just plod through and then the weekend will become before we know it.
But I tell you, where do I even start? It perfectly describes on the screen my Monday and Tuesday this week. So it's almost over. All right. Well, let's take another quick poll. So go to menti.com and use the code on the screen above, 586969. So we're kind of curious, have you attended any of the other virtual LTC sessions? We had our first round on April 27th. We've had a couple of sessions, virtual conference days for our program chairs in June. Good.
That's awesome. Lots of people have participated, and if you have participated, we do post the resources on our website in the Chapter Resource Center under Volunteer Learning, and there's a special page for LTC. So we always post everything out there.
Yep. That's good. Okay, let's take one more poll. So where's everybody? I see we have 50 people on today's virtual session. So where's everybody from? What chapter are you from? Got Oregon, Northwest Ohio, Wyoming, Iowa, Lone Star.
Hawaii. It's early there.
Very early.
I see a Washington in the chat too. Awesome. Well, it looks like we have some great representation.
We do. Okay. Let's take one more poll before we get into some of the education today.
Oh,
Oh, we did take the last poll. Awesome.
we did.
So we're going to go over our first grouping of education, and we are going to hear from Steve Saldivar and Perla Gallegos as they go over standard operations, policies and documents, general information and responsibilities, and chapter rebate CVent transition. So the first video we're going to start with today is standard operations. So kick back, and Steve and Perla are going to share their expertise. So go ahead, Brianna. Thanks, everybody.
Make sure to type your questions in the Q&A if you have anything that comes up.
Everyone, welcome to this virtual session. In this session, we are going to chat about some of the standard operations for the treasurer role. First and foremost, the first thing you'll probably encounter is the chapter budget. The chapter budget is essential as it states our goals and what we're hoping to achieve from a financial perspective within our chapter for the year. Chapters are required to complete an annual operating budget. This will be due by August 1st and should be entered in QuickBooks. If you would like to let us know that it's been entered, you can certainly do that. However, there is no requirement tied to the chapter budget. Some key elements of the budget are the revenue budget, program and operating expenses, and then contributions to chapter equity, all of which you can find some more detail and some templates in the financial management tax guide, which is available in the chapter resources for you. Next thing we're going to chat about is the financial statements for the board. The chapter's board of directors should be kept current on all financial dealings of the chapter. It's important as the treasurer that you keep them informed and that we provide a financial package to them at least monthly. Within that financial package should include the statement of financial position, statement of cash flow, and then your statement of revenue and expenses. Okay, the next thing we're going to chat about is a certificate of insurance. So you may ask yourself, what is a certificate of insurance, or why would I need one? So typically these are required by venues. It provides them with details regarding the coverage and limits of our insurance policies. So you would typically need to provide one. You can find details in the contract for your venues, or you can check with your venue contact, and they should be able to let you know if one is required. We ask that all requests be submitted a minimum of 14 days before the certificate is needed. You can send those directly to accounting@hfma.org. It typically takes our broker about 48 hours to turn those around, but we do like to give them some time if they are in a high volume period. So what information is needed to request a certificate of insurance? So here we've put together a little list of what you can fill out. There's also a form within the chapter resources that you can fill out and return to accounting@hfma.org. So some main things here, just the date you need it by, the name of your chapter, the name of your event. A lot of venues will require specific limits or specific coverages. We ask that you include that as well. And then also who the certificate should be sent to. If you like it to send back to yourself, we can certainly do that. If you want us to send it directly to the venue, we can do that as well. All right, so changing gears again, now we're going to chat a little bit about 1099 reporting. So 1099s are typically required at the end of the year. So we're going to spend some time here to understand what the Form 1099 miscellaneous is, determine who receives it, and to identify the process for creating and mailing your 1099 forms for the calendar year. All right, so a little bit of background on the 1099. So who must get one? One notable use of Form 1099 is that it reports amounts of at least $600 issued in a calendar year to any person or business that is not a corporation. Okay? Examples of this include services performed by a non-employee, prizes and awards, payments to attorneys, and other income payments. This is a following list of some exceptions. Typically, these types of entities do not receive a 1099. If you are ever unsure, please refer to the W-9 that you collect before paying any vendor, and you would be able to see how they are set up from a tax perspective. Okay, below are some deadlines pertaining to the 1099s. As you'll note below, 1099s must be received by your recipients by January 31st. And then if you are submitting by mail, the red copies must be submitted to the IRS by February 28th. However, if you are filing electronically, I believe most of us file by mail, but if you are filing electronically, those copies, that must be submitted to the IRS by March 31st. Okay, so here's some information that you'll need to populate your 1099 forms. First and foremost is your chapter's federal tax ID number, the chapter's name. For the business address, you could actually put the corporate address of HFMA, which is 3 Westbrook Corporate Center, Suite 600, Westchester, Illinois, 60154. You will also need the recipient's tax ID or social security number. Again, that's information that can be found on their W-9 form. And then box 7 is where you would put the 1099 miscellaneous compensation paid for a non-employee. Okay. So just a few other items to consider. Make sure you're using the current year's forms. You know, typically you may have some forms left over from last year. You want to be sure that the year that is stated in the top right, I believe it's either the top right or top left corner, reflects the year that you are submitting for. Just note that there are 2 copies. Copy A, which would be the red copy, goes to the IRS, and copy B, they're actually gray copies, and they're actually half of the sheet. Those are what you're submitting to your 1099 vendors so that they can use for their tax reporting purposes. Then there is also the Form 1096, which is submitted to the IRS as well. The 1096 basically tells the IRS who you are, what type of 1099s you're submitting, and how many for your organization. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Steve Saldivar. I am the Director of Finance and Accounting here at HFMA. In this session, we're going to be going through some policies and documents that you'll need to be aware of as the treasurer of your local chapter. First, we're going to go ahead and discuss a few policies that you just need to be aware of, be familiar with. There's no signature or no need to submit back to national for any reason. The first one is the record retention policy. All documents produced as a result of conducting HFMA business must be properly stored and safeguarded. The point of this policy, it's intended to standardize the association's practices with regard to retention and destruction of all association documents. As you go through this policy, you'll find retention schedules for items such as accounting records, banking records, anything legal, among a number of other things. So please familiarize yourself with that. The next one is the HFMA whistleblower policy. Again, no signature required on this one, no need to submit back to us. HFMA prides itself on adhering to federal, state, local laws and regulations. Our code of ethics requires each member of HFMA to promote the highest standards of professional conduct. This policy addresses the appropriate actions to take if you become aware of any violation to laws, regulations, or simply ethics. It is HFMA's policy that there will be no retaliation or action taken against any employee or volunteer who reports a violation in good faith. Now we're going to discuss a few of the policies that do require signature, possibly from you, and must be returned to the association. The first one is going to be the conflict of interest policy. The purpose of this policy is to protect the interest of the organization. Each new board member must sign and commit to the intent of this resolution each year. The next one is the practice of operating procedures. This one is to be signed off by the offboarding treasurer. This policy certifies that the 3 operating policies are in place within your chapter. Those 3 operating policies are the record retention policy, the whistleblower policy, and the conflict of interest policy. Next is the authorization for inclusion for the Form 990. Each year, the association completes a Group 990 return for all of HFMA chapters. This document is to be signed by both the offboarding treasurer and the offboarding president. This certifies that all information provided on the Informational 990 worksheet has been reviewed and submitted to your chapter's governing body prior to being submitted to the association. This also authorizes the association to include the chapter in the consolidated group 990 return. And then the last item is the certification of no education foundation. All HFMA chapters are 501c6 nonprofit organizations. This document certifies that you do not have a 501c3 education foundation for your local chapter. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another session for the Treasurer's Track. So in this session, we're just going to go over some general information and responsibilities of the treasurer role. First, we just wanted to go over the corporate organization chart for HFMA and the chapters of HFMA. So if you take a look here, you'll see at the top, we have the HFMA board, who governs the HFMA Membership Association, the HFMA Education Foundation, and then we also do have a third entity called Learning Solutions Incorporated. Beneath the national entities, we do have the 66 chapters, which are 501c6 organizations, and then we do have one chapter education foundation that is a 501c3 organization. So with that, we just wanted to discuss the tax exempt status of the chapters. As I mentioned, the chapters of HFMA are 501c6 organizations. That means you guys are federal income tax exempt. However, we are not sales tax exempt. We get that question quite often. So just wanted to be sure we were clear with that. I'm not going to go ahead and read through all of this, but if you take a read there, the 501c6 status basically says we are exempt for doing work that is for the purpose of our mission, which is education, our meetings, and things of that nature. Okay. So now we're going to chat a little bit about the responsibilities of the treasurer role. So here are three main things. The first one is to ensure the fiscal viability of the chapter. We have to be sure we're safeguarding our assets, we're keeping our board informed of our financial matters and positions. We should be providing financial statements to the board on a periodic basis, preferably monthly. We should be maintaining accounting records in accordance with GAAP. If you are aware, we do use QuickBooks Online, which makes our bookkeeping and record keeping quite simple. So you probably received an email. We'll need to update the QuickBooks information for any new treasurers coming in. You can send that information to accounting@hfma.org. And then, as I mentioned, financial reporting, along with the monthly financials, planning, budgeting, forecasting, things of that nature are also part of the role of the treasurer. So this little chart here is something we put together. If you're coming back as treasurer, you would have seen this last year. So this is just kind of to organize all of the things that are going to be due. So these are the year-end requirements. You'll notice there's an extra column this year. We have a due date, which is the typical due date for each of these items. And then to the far right, there's an extension date due to our current situation with COVID-19. So as I mentioned, if you're second year or third year treasurer, these will look familiar to you. If you're new, all of these documents are available for you in the Chapter Resource Center. And then these are either due back to the association by August 1st, or there's some things that we need you to review and kind of compare your financials to. We will chat about those actually in a different session. Okay. So now accessing the Chapter Resource Center. This is similar to the Chapter Toolkit if you're familiar in the past, but with our new website, there is an area where all of the resources will be held for you. So you can see here in the top banner there, you would go to Tools, click on Chapter Resource Center, and then Chapter Resources. And then from there, there are sections listed down the side for chapter resources, and you should be able to find treasurer resources that will assist you in either attaining these documents. There's some tax management financial guides there. The request for insurance certificates is there. So basically anything you would need in terms of documents and some policies and procedures you can find in the Chapter Resource Center. Hi, everyone. Welcome to one of our other sessions for chapter treasurers. This session, we're going to be going over the chapter rebate and some introductory information regarding CVent. So first and foremost, we want to go over some things so that you understand what exactly the chapter rebate is and what it means for your chapter. So each year, individuals who join HFMA are affiliated with both HFMA and their local chapter. The association membership, now that we have all access membership, 80% of membership dues are allocated towards membership revenue. There is a single dues amount paid. The member only pays one amount to the national organization. So in return, HFMA returns a rebate of 10% of paid member dues to each chapter annually. There are certain member types that qualify for this rebate. The chapter rebate is paid on new member dues, renewals, and enterprise membership. Rebates are not paid on student memberships, chapter life, or retires. A bit of more information. So the chapter rebate period is October 1 through September 30 each year. So all payments made within that period will be considered for the annual chapter rebate. We also have our enterprise contracts, which are bundled memberships, which include similar to All Access, they include membership, forums, newsletters, all of that great stuff. And there is a separate pool calculation that is done for the enterprise contracts, which we will chat about in just a few. There are a few deductions taken from the rebate each year. Each year, the association pays premiums for chapter insurance. We also pay for the CVent usage fees. And there are some other miscellaneous expenses for specific chapters that are deducted from the chapter rebate. Okay, now we're going to chat about how the chapter rebate is calculated. For enterprise membership, we use a pool method. As I mentioned earlier, 80% of the all access membership is allocated towards membership revenue. So we take all enterprise contracts paid within the rebate period of October 1 through September 30 and basically place those in a pool of funds. What we then do is we take the number of enterprise members within your local chapter and we allocate the funds out based on the percentage of total for the enterprise chapter rebate portion. Okay. Next thing I want to chat about is the insurance allocation. As I mentioned, there are some deductions from the chapter rebate each year, one of those being the insurance premiums for chapters. This is based on the total number of members within your chapter. So if you follow along in the example here, the example is in 2020, the insurance premiums were $20,000. Your chapter has a total member count of 5,000. That would come to about $4 per member for the insurance premiums of your chapter. We would then take that dollar per member, multiply it by the total members in your chapter, and that would be the insurance premium amount reduced from your chapter rebate. So once we are able to calculate all of the chapter rebates, we will send out checks to each of the chapters. These typically go to the treasurer of the chapter. Along with the check, you will receive a letter similar to the one that you see here. It basically breaks out all the information you'll need in order to reconcile this and book it in QuickBooks. We've included the chapter rebate amount, the chapter insurance reduction. If you have any other reductions that we've paid for anything on the chapter's behalf. And then there's also the CVent usage fee that is deducted from the chapter rebate, resulting in your net check payment. We also included the typical GLs that these items would go to. So it's very important. If you don't receive this letter, please feel free to reach out to us and we can certainly provide you with a copy. Okay, now we're going to chat a little bit about CVent. So this slide here is basically pertaining to the CVent transition. So what exactly needs to be done? So just a few pointers here. Users need to be sure that they're sharing any login information with incoming chapter leaders. That includes merchant login information. Each chapter uses a different merchant, so please be sure you know who your merchant is and be sure to pass that information along. And then if there are any invoice templates you have set up in CVent, we'll just need to be sure to update the remit to address, if there's a remit to name, or any information like that for the incoming treasurer. CVent operations are actually going to be discussed in another session in more detail, and that will actually conclude this session. Thank you so much, and I will probably see you in another video.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing all your knowledge on that information. Now we just like to take another pulse with everyone and see before we get into the annual financial review and 990 information. Have you started your chapter's financial review yet? Yeah, pretty even across the board, 50-50. So good. Okay, great. Now, next up, we're going to hear Steve share his information and knowledge regarding the annual financial review and 990 reporting. So without further ado, Brianna, go ahead and start the next session.
Okay, welcome back everyone, or if this is your first session, welcome. In this session, we are going to chat about the annual financial review and also the 990 informational reporting. There's going to be a lot of words and a lot going on in these sessions, so bear with me and try to follow along as best as possible. First, we're going to chat about the annual financial review. Please note that this is a chapter requirement and the annual financial review is due by August 1st. Annually, each chapter and region conducts a financial review or audit to test and validate its fiscal integrity and operating guidelines. So why is this important, you might ask? It ensures the chapter's financial statements correctly reflect the activities for the fiscal year. It ensures that minimum financial review procedures are in place that test the chapter's receipts and disbursement transactions and ensures that they are reconciled to the bank accounts. It also validates the transaction approval guidelines are in place and are being observed. So some requirements of the annual financial review. Each chapter is required to conduct an independent audit or the HFMA internal financial review by an individual or individuals possessing the appropriate financial experience and who are not involved in the day-to-day chapter bookkeeping activities. It's up to the chapter on which route you want to take. Some chapters choose to have an independent audit firm come in and do the review. Others go the route of the HFMA internal financial review guidelines. Chapters that conduct the HFMA internal financial review must send a copy of the completed and signed form back by August 1st. You can send this to accounting@hfma.org or feel free to scan or mail it directly to the office here. Just a note, the review must consist of 5 fiscal months. Included in those 5 months must be the first month of the year and the last month of the fiscal year, which in this case would be June 2019 and May 2020. The other 3 months can be any months of the reviewer's choosing. If a chapter decides to have an independent review performed by an outside CPA firm, it must meet the minimum guidelines established in the HFMA financial review program. It's important to note that a financial statement review does not meet the minimum requirements of the HFMA financial review program. If you need more information about this, guidelines can be found in the Financial Tax and Insurance Management Guide within the Chapter Resource Center. Prior to submitting IRS Form 990 worksheet, the annual review must be completed, signed, and the confirmation form must be submitted back to the association by August 1st with all supporting schedules and work papers. As I mentioned earlier, chapters that have an independent audit or financial review performed only need to send back this signed copy here of the form. It is the chapter's responsibility to maintain all supporting work papers and permanent files. Okay. The chapter board of directors should review the results of the annual financial review or audit and have an opportunity to ask any questions prior to submitting the annual review and the confirmation form here. All right, so next we're going to take a look at some of the sections of the HFMA chapter financial review. First is the internal control questionnaire. So this is just some sample information. You'll see here in part A of the financial review is related to cash receipts and collection procedures. The section gathers additional information regarding the oversight handling of cash, tracing deposits from the check all the way through to the bank account, and then also discusses some items related to bank reconciliation. So for example, number 2, if you read here, states, are cash receipts in the form of cash received at a chapter event verified by a second chapter volunteer? This question is asked to ensure proper checks and balances are in place. Next, the review goes into cash receipts, disbursements, and bank reconciliations. The purpose of these sections is to test and validate the functionality and controls within each of these areas to ensure that proper controls are implemented and functioning as expected. For example, the reviewer will do things such as analyze invoices for proper approval, test an appropriate sample of board volunteer expense reimbursements, and also account for a numerical sequence of all accounts payable checks. These procedures help to ensure all disbursements are properly authorized and accounted for. And just a reminder, the annual financial review and confirmation must be submitted by August 1st, signed by both the offboarding treasurer and the offboarding president. Okay, so that covers it for the annual financial review. Next, we're going to chat about the 990 informational Excel form. So each year, the association completes a Group 990 return that includes all HFMA chapters. In order to gather all of the information needed for the group return, we need you to follow the steps outlined here. First is the 990 survey. This will be sent out sometime in June and due back to the association by July 1st. We'll review a few sample questions in just a moment. So after the 990 survey, we need you to finalize your QuickBooks for the year and complete your annual chapter financial review by August 1st, as we just discussed. If you need more details, again, on the annual, rewind this video or take a look at the Financial Tax Insurance Management Guide within the Chapter Resource Center. Finally, we will prepare a 990 informational Excel worksheet and send that to you for your review. In this review, we ask you to review all P&L and balance sheet data information, which will be pre-populated for you. And then new for this year, there will be a column with variances, and we're asking that you provide explanations for any year-over-year differences greater than $10,000. Okay. So let's talk a little more about the 990 survey. The purpose of this survey is to assist us in gathering general questions required for the 990 group return. As mentioned earlier, this will go out sometime in June and be due back by July 1st. We only need one member of the chapter to submit the survey. Typically, the treasurer and the president will work on it together, or they will decide which one of those individuals will complete the survey. Again, we only need one submission per chapter. Here are some of the information we ask for. It includes questions like the number of voting members, the number of members that are independent. Sample question, does the organization have a written conflict of interest policy? As you go through your policy documents in your checklist here, you will see we do have a conflict of interest policy. So general questions like this will be asked. There will be a number of other yes/no questions. There's not many open-ended questions, but if you do have any questions related to any of the survey questions, please feel free to reach out to us at accounting@hfma.org. Okay. Now let's look at the 990 Excel worksheet that we will pre-populate for you, but we need you to review the data and provide additional variance analysis for year-over-year differences of $10,000 or greater. You'll notice here, once you get the worksheet, your chapter name will be listed at the top along with your federal tax ID, which will help you to identify that this is in fact your 990 worksheet you should be working on. The next section lists the treasurer and the person responsible for the accounting records. We have some sample information here with Perla and myself. Next are the actual financials that we need you to review. First is the balance sheet. This worksheet will be pre-populated with ending balances for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20. Thank you to Perla for pre-populating that for us. Please note, there will be two new columns that are part of the worksheet this year. One will be a difference column showing the difference from ending fiscal year 19 to ending fiscal year 20. And then there will also be a column for variance explanations, again, where we're asking that you provide any explanation or information that you may think would be helpful in explaining any variances for $10,000 or more. Okay, next is the chapter income statement or profit and loss statement. So same concept here, but these figures are going to be related to the P&L rather than to the balance sheet. So again, there will be an additional variance column and a column for variance explanations. And we ask that you help us in explaining items greater than $10,000. This helps us greatly when we are actually preparing the Group 990 return. Sometimes we have to explain variances, and you may have had Perla contact you in the past asking, why did this go up? Why did this go down? Why is this booked here? So this will help us to kind of alleviate some of those questions and have them up front. Okay. So quick recap here. Those worksheets will be sent out around September 1st, and we're asking for your review and variance analysis back by September 15th. And that about wraps it up for the annual financial review and the 990 informational worksheets. Thank you for joining this session. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at accounting@hfma.org.
Great. Thank you, Steve. We're going to go ahead, before we go into some of the QuickBooks training, we're going to go ahead and take another poll here with everyone. So just go to menti.com. I see some of you are there, and use the code 586969. What is your QuickBooks experience? Are you a beginner at QuickBooks? Are you intermediate? Or are you an advanced QuickBooks user? And as you're filling this out, as a reminder, during any one of these sections that we're going through today in the training, please populate your questions into the Q&A pod so we can address those at the end of the presentation when we have both Steve and Perla live to answer your questions about anything we've covered today. Good. Okay, so it looks like we have a good percentage are beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Great. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating in the poll. And Brianna, I think next up, we can start with the QuickBooks training.
Welcome to this presentation. My name is Perla Gallegos with HFMA Chapter Accounting, and this is an introduction to QuickBooks Online. This presentation is intended to highlight the main features and benefits of QuickBooks Online and help you get started on your journey as treasurer. For those not very familiar with QuickBooks Online, it is a user-friendly accounting software that our chapters have used to streamline record keeping and all those important processes used to track and maintain the financial position of the chapter. In this presentation, we will learn the basics of getting around and review information on QuickBooks access features, how to access your chapter information, and manage your chapter's QuickBooks users. First, let's talk about logging in and using QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online should be accessed in a web browser, preferably Google's Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. Those two web browsers are built specifically for the features within QuickBooks Online. To access QuickBooks, please visit ca.qbo.intuit.com. Once you enter your information, click Sign In, and QuickBooks will take you to your chapter's file. Once you successfully log into your chapter's QuickBooks, the first screen you will be prompted to is the home page, also known as a dashboard. It provides a quick and easy snapshot of the income and expenses, profit and loss, sales, and bank account balances for your chapter. Next, let's navigate through the first and most common way to use QuickBooks. The Create menu, also known as the Quick Create menu, can be accessed by clicking the plus new icon located on the left. In this menu, you will see a list of transactions. Click any of these transactions, and it will prompt you to a form that you can enter, of which will become an accounting entry. You will use the Create menu to do most of your day-to-day work in QuickBooks. Now, let's review the left navigation bar menu. As you use the Create menu to make data entry, you would want to find that information from time to time. QuickBooks lets you do that very easily by using the left navigation bar. Overall, the navigation bar will allow you to find information based on the name or by the transaction type. So, by clicking banking to view, you are able to view the online banking, bank rules and receipts. Expenses to view the vendor list and expense transactions. Sales to view your members, invoices, and sales listing. Reports to find information about the chapter and report format. You will be able to run common reports such as the balance sheet, income statement, and aging summary reports, and much more from here. Click Accounting to view the chart of accounts or to easily access the Reconcile window. Now let's review the third and final way to get around QuickBooks Online. The company menu, located on the right-hand corner, is also known as the gear icon. Here you'll see tasks that are not very common as those on the Create menu, but that you'll have to access from time to time. Under the company list menu, you'll first notice Account and Settings. Let's click on it. Information listed here is very important. Here's where you'll want to review and communicate with accounting@hfma.org. Any changes as the information listed can impact invoices and sales receipts. Review and make sure your chapter's information is up to date. You'll first notice your chapter's name and tax ID. Reflected in the contact info should be the incoming treasurer's contact information and chapter's website information if there's one. Down below, reflected on the address info, the company address should be that of the organization's corporate address, as it is the default address for the chapter's QuickBooks subscription. The member-facing address right below should reflect the current treasurer's address, or sometimes there is a P.O. box that the chapter has in place. This address serves as a location where members contact the chapter or send payments. Also shown on the sales template, which we'll discuss next. So right in here, there is a sales option, so let's click on that. And you would click on the Customize Look and Feel. You will be directed to Custom Form Styles, and when you click on Edit, you can make changes to the design, content, and email information reflected on your sales forms, invoices. Once completed, you just click Done, and it will save your template. Navigating back to the company menu, you can also access your sales template easily by clicking Custom Forms Styles. Now that we have reviewed the sales template, let's move on how you will manage your QuickBooks users. So also from the gear icon, right under your company, you'll see the option to click on Manage Users. Let's do that. As you click on it, you'll be prompted to review the list of QuickBooks users for your chapter. Recently, we sent out email communication on QuickBooks Access. We ask leaders to help us maintain the user list for each chapter, so please be sure to follow those instructions and relate any changes to accounting@hfma.org. This concludes our presentation for today. Please stay tuned on more information on QuickBooks. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Perla Gallegos with HFMA Chapter Accounting, and today's presentation is on budget planning and financial reporting. Chapters are required to enter their annual operating budget in QuickBooks normally by June 1st, but due to the current circumstances, we have extended this date to August 1st. HFMA Accounting does not need a copy of the budget. All revenue and expenditures are to be managed through the operating budget. Approval or modification of the budget may be accomplished by a simple majority approval of the board members. The process should include a review of current and projected financial position and should incorporate the following key elements: revenue budget, program and operating expenses, and contribution to chapter equity. Let's move on to QuickBooks Online and learn the steps to creating your chapter's budget. Once in QuickBooks, to create a budget, click the gear icon located on the right-hand corner. Under your Tools listing, click Budgeting. You'll be prompted to your Budgets window, and in order to create a new budget, we would click the Add Budget button. The new budget window will open, and you may type a name for the budget into the name field. In this case, we would use as a sample fiscal year 2021 _ sample. Next, use the fiscal year dropdown to choose the budget's fiscal year. So in this case, June 2020 through May 2021. Use the interval dropdown to select the time intervals to show within the budget. Usually the monthly option is selected, so we'll leave that as is. Next, you may choose options from the pre-filled data dropdown to pre-fill the budget using actual data. In this case, there is actual data for 2019 and 2020. But as an example, we'll leave that as is. Next, if the chapter has specific members or classes or locations assigned to a specific program, this subdivide by dropdown will subdivide the budget as chosen. When finished, click the Next button in the lower right-hand corner. All right, so to edit the budget's information, already highlighted is a field row. So in this case, we'll use this as an example, meeting income, and enter something like 15,000 for June. Tab on over. And as an example, let's type 2,000 for July. And to show you that you can copy the values across the row, let's click on this option here. And you do have to give it a minute in order for the values to copy on over. But as you can see, they'll populate. And to clear all of the fields in the information, all you would do is simply click the X blue circle here. And again, we would just give it a little minute. All right, so once you enter your information, basically what you'd want to do is down below on the right-hand corner, click Save and Close. You'll be prompted back to your budgets page, and from here you'll be able to see all of the budgets that have been created for your chapter. So just as demonstration on the under the action options, under Edit, you may either choose to copy the prior year's budget in order to help create the new year's budget, or you can choose to delete it. You may also have the options to run any reports that have already been created. So in this case, let's go ahead and select to copy. So let's go ahead and use the sample budget that was created for 2007 to 2008. So it will pre-populate for you, and all you would have to do if you choose to use this information for your current year's fiscal is basically just change the name. And again, choose the from the fiscal year options, the current year that you are working in, tab over, and although you're choosing to copy this from a previous year, you can also choose to make any changes on here. But before you do that, what you'd want to do is click on the Create Budget button here down below. And so once you do that, it'll basically prompt you back and you can go ahead and make any changes or edits. And then choose to save and close. So there you go. Okay, so now that we have reviewed accessing your budgets and using QuickBooks Online, let's move on and discuss financial reporting. The chapter's board of directors should be kept current on the financial position of the chapter through regular presentation of the financial statements. Information as to any budget variances should be supplied with accompanying explanations of the extraordinary items. The treasurer shall prepare the following for reporting to the chapter's board of directors: statement of financial position, statement of cash flow, statement of revenue and expenses. All financial reporting is on an accrual basis. For more information on financial statements and reporting, please visit the Chapter Resource Center and access the Financial Tax and Insurance Management Guide. So let's demonstrate in QuickBooks and review the Report Center where you'll be able to run these important reports. So let's demonstrate how to access the Report Center from QuickBooks by navigating through the navigation bar on the left and choosing the Reports option. So you'll be prompted to your Report Center here, and you have the option of entering the report that you choose to work with or simply browsing through the list. So as an example, let's look under Business Overview, and before we highlight or click on Balance Sheet, let's click on the star so that we can add it to our favorites list. And as you can see, it'll populate right away for you. And let's go into Balance Sheet. So most reports have the same field selections. You'll first notice the report period, where you can select to customize your date specifically by entering the dates or by clicking the field options to make a selection. So in this case, to demonstrate, let's choose Custom and choose to run June 1st, 2017 through May 31st, 2018. Next, the display columns option. Basically, you can choose to change it if you wish, or leave it as total only. Following to choose to run the report for active rows or non-zero rows columns, you can choose to either view all, non-zero, or just active. So we'll leave that as is for now. Choose to compare your report for another period by making the selection. So you can either choose it for previous year if you wish to look at and compare from year to year. And then as far as the accounting method, we'll leave it as accrual, and then we'll choose Run Report. So there we go. There's your balance sheet. So let's go back to demonstrate the profit and loss statement. So as you can see, again, the field options remain the same. So to custom and demonstrate, let's go ahead and choose the dates from the previous report, June 1st, 2017 to May 31st, 2018. We'll leave as total only, and in this case, we'll say non-zero. And then compare another period. Since we're looking at the profit and loss statement, we'll choose to compare previous year and choose change in dollars. Leave the accounting method as accrual and then run your report. So this report is actually going to help you in communicating, any variances, especially this year with the 990. This is something that Steve spoke about in a previous recording, but we are actually adding a different column to the 990 to so that our chapter leaders can explain any variances, major variances, and it will help us complete the 990 and also work with our auditors in the future. Okay. So let's go back to the report list. I want to show you other statements that are available. As you can see here, the statement of cash flows. You all may also use to run your budget or review or budget versus actual report here. Who owes you? These are also valuable reports that I recommend looking into. I recommend looking at the outstanding list of invoices and also any checks that are outstanding and you'd want to clear and work with me. I recommend you running that report as well. Okay, but these are all valuable reports that are going to help you finish your year and just communicate throughout the year with the board. Okay, so this concludes today's presentation on budget planning and financial reporting. We hope that you have another successful experience closing out the year, and please feel free to contact us if you have any questions or need further assistance. Thank you. Hi guys, thank you for staying tuned and joining me, Perla Gallegos, with HFMA Chapter Accounting for our next session. This presentation is to help you explore QuickBooks Online at your own pace that will help you feel confident in your role as treasurer. As mentioned in one of our previous sessions, QuickBooks Online is a user-friendly accounting software that our chapter leaders have used for quite some time to lead their individual chapter finances. There are many benefits to using QuickBooks Online. As volunteers, we would like for you to take advantage of the software's full capabilities to help you balance and focus your day-to-day activities by limiting the need to manually enter your chapter finances. This training is structured to help you learn and navigate through QuickBooks Online by giving you access to quick and simple online video tutorials and additional step-by-step instructions at your fingertips. The training on online banking provides easy steps to use the bank feed as your chapter's transactions are imported to QuickBooks. You'll be taken through initial steps to set up your chapter's bank account, categorize and match transactions, record bank transfers, and even split different categories with a single transaction. The training available in this presentation is structured the same. You'll have the option to click on a video tutorial that is less than 5 minutes or choose to access step-by-step instructions on the right from a different source that includes great illustrations. Now, due to time constraints, I will not be able to navigate through each training within the presentation, but let's get you comfortable to navigate through those by clicking through the banking tutorial. So right away, each section is going to follow a similar format. You'll be able to see that there is the online video tutorial, easily to access. Once completed, if you scroll down below, there's also a step-by-step instruction on the demonstration from the video. Some of us like to get through the video and practice on our own, so this is definitely something that you can take advantage of, okay? And to the right is a step-by-step instruction. So let's click on that. Now this one here, it doesn't have a video, but it's basically an article that, first it'll introduce, for example, connecting your bank and credit card accounts. It'll provide the last time that the article was updated and by whom. If you scroll down further, you'll come across the different topics pertaining to this particular task. Also with illustrations, step-by-step instructions. So it's a different way of learning to navigate through QuickBooks. This is also a great source to use. There's training available such as tutorials, webinars, and training classes. You'll be able to access further training based on the different topics, such as, account management, banking. There's also a community where, professionals like yourself come in and ask questions on a daily basis, and they're posted here just for your benefit. And, there's special blogs as well, along with other resources to, help you become a pro. So journal entries, some individuals may want to learn more about journal entries and how to make adjustments. During the year, the chapter may need to make some entries to record special transactions that include, booking depreciation and amortization, reallocating and reversing accruals of prepaid income and expenses, entering bank and credit card fees, or, basically from your chapter's investment or savings accounts, reclassing between, general ledger accounts. I know that as we're approaching the end of the fiscal, those are more common tasks that, we are opening ourselves up to and just, getting into more so. And so as we move along to our next slide, you'll be able to find a 2-minute video that navigates through the Create menu as discussed in the Introduction to QuickBooks Online session to access the listing to create a journal entry. And other available resources as listed on the right provide, step-by-step instructions to more complex entries that are due to, adjusting or reversing special transactions. Moving on, the chapter may want to learn an easier way to track expenses by learning to use checks in QuickBooks. Using checks in QuickBooks helps to explain expenses during the annual audit, and it organizes the chapter's checking account and bank statement reconciliation. This video on using checks in QuickBooks will help you set up QuickBooks so that you can print checks directly from there by navigating to the Print Checks menu and to help set up your chapter's checks. The following training is broken out into sections to help you manage your income and expenses. Tracking your chapter's income and expenses is very important, and training included is on basically creating a bill to, issuing a refund receipt. I won't be able to spend too much time on all these tasks, but just know that you can access these at your own pace. So this tutorial, in particular with managing income and expenses, is just under 3 minutes. So anything that, basically the chapter purchases, whether it be with a credit card, online payment, or check, this is a great video to, learn how to record those. The next tutorial, creating bills and expense reports, walks you through, step-by-step instructions on how to create invoices or receive payments for your members. And following tracking sales, how to create sales receipts and invoices, You know, a lot of these tasks have been replaced by CVent, but, you know, some of us still like to use QuickBooks and, you know, take advantage of those special, you know, tasks. So this is definitely something that you can look into, and if you feel the need to take advantage, please do. Receiving payments. This tutorial that is under 3 minutes will, you know, provide insight on how to receive payments, and even, you know, how to add vendors and members to QuickBooks. Specifically for, you know, 1099 purposes, this is a good video to watch, so that, you know, you be able to learn how to simply by checking to a special box that states this is a 1099 vendor. It will help you towards the end when you're working to file your 1099s in particular. Refund receipts. So as I mentioned before, I know CVent has taken the place of a lot of tasks that we normally do within QuickBooks, but nonetheless, this video is available for you, and you know, in case you do want to get to dive into how to create a refund receipt, so you can, you know, more so track that information, you know, as you manage your chapters, books, and, you know, just transition roles as well. So now that we've learned to manage and track those heavy tasks, you may want to get a glance at your chapter's financial overviews, which, you know, then takes us to the financial reporting here. QuickBooks, you know, offers easy access to common financial reports that include, from, you know, previous training, your balance sheet, income statement, and statement of cash flow. And so sometimes you may want to run extra special reports, and so the following slide will take you through learning to customize your reports. So in this tutorial that is just under 4 minutes, you'll be taken through the Report Center, where you'll be able to familiarize yourself with the customization options. You'll notice that there are different and several options available for customizing your reports. So if you've got some time, try playing with the different customization options to see, you know, what they do, and you know, just how you can customize them to your liking. QuickBooks resources. There are plenty of articles and videos out there for you to, you know, learn how to navigate at your own pace through QuickBooks Online. There's, you know, learn and support tutorials similar to those that we just kind of walk through. And in addition to that, there is, we click on this, you know, more simple tutorials that are based on the different tasks. You know, a lot of these things don't really pertain to our, you know, chapters daily needs, but, you know, just as a, you know, way to enhance your learning and whatnot in QuickBooks, this is definitely a good tool to take advantage of, okay? There's also a lot of like free webinars and videos available. And, you know, if you want to become more of a QuickBooks pro, these are definitely some resources to take advantage of. You know, I tend to go into these myself on a daily basis, and, you know, just to stay on top of, you know, the changes, or to get more comfortable with, you know, assisting you all as well. And so, you know, please take advantage of that. And that takes us to, you know, HFMA accounting, being able to, you know, we're here to provide you with as much support as possible. You can always reach me directly on, you know, telephone, or email me directly at accounting@hfma.org with, you know, any requests or questions. And for those of you that are already familiar with the Chapter Resource Center, thank you. If not, I recommend, you all to just go in there once in a while. There's a lot of good resources there. We tend to update all of our, certifications that are due, with the end of the year there, and just any material that is for your benefit. We tend to list it there. So please visit it. And if for some reason you come across and see that you don't have access to it, you can also email me directly, and I'll work with chapter relations to get you going. Okay. But thank you so much for joining our presentation today. We hope that this information is useful and just allows you to feel more confident in your role. And like as I mentioned before, we're here to help. Okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Perla, for that information on QuickBooks. And before we get started with listening to Kristen Zabrowski share her tips and tricks with everyone, let's take another quick poll through Menti. So go to menti.com and use the code above 586969. We'd like to know, do you use CVent in your role as treasurer? Great. Looks like for the most part, those that are participating on the poll do use CVent as their role as treasurer. Great. So next up, we are going to hear from your peer, Kristen Zabrowski, who is the Region 2 treasurer and also a member of the chapter advancement team, to share her tips and tricks and best practices on utilizing CVent in your role as treasurer. So Brianna, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Kristen Zabrowski, and I'm from the Hudson Valley, New York chapter. I have been a member of the chapter advancement team for 3 years, and I'm also the Region 2 treasurer. Region 2 is all of New York State and Puerto Rico. Today I'm going to speak to you about how you can use CVent in your role as treasurer. I have found it to be an extremely valuable tool in my workings as a treasurer over the last couple of years. I actually worked with our region to get CVent set up so that I would be able to have various tools available to me to be able to make my job easier as a treasurer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start sharing my screen right now with our CVent. So right here is, I've opened up our Region 2 CVent to our Region 2 sponsorship event, which is our current ongoing event. And I do, as a treasurer, look at this page. I do like to scroll down to the bottom where we get a snapshot of the finances of our event. So I know how much the revenue is for the event. So what I do on this page is I actually use this page as a summary for myself to see where an event actually is producing, which is all the way at the bottom. It gives you a financial summary of the event where you can see your total revenue collected, how much has been paid, and how much is outstanding. I use CVent to manage our receivables. I don't manage them in QuickBooks. Because this is where it's at the registrant level, and you're able to very easily see who has what outstanding. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top of this event and show you basically some of the areas where the initial setup helped in terms of being able to manage the event. I have set up for immediate invoices to send to our registrants as soon as they register, and I also set up for follow-up emails and invoices when there's remains a residual receivable. So where you go to set up your emails is in this promotion and communication, and you can go to event emails, And this is where you set up and create all the emails that you would use within an event. I'm sure some of your team members use this section as well for various communications. When you come down here to post-registration emails, I have set up and where you can set up various emails for your events. And this is where, as I mentioned, I set up my sponsorship registration email blast, which I have set to automatic. So that email sends automatically to a registrant as soon as they register, as well as email notifications when a balance remains outstanding. It sends additional blasts to the participant. So I have set up these to do manually, just because I like to control when they set up. They can also be set up to send automatically based on criteria that you set within CVent. From here, once this is all set up, where I spend a lot of my time is either going to be in the individual invitee management section, where you can look up individual registrations, or in the reporting section to get global overall reports for the event. So I'm going to go to invitee management. I have registered myself as a sponsor for this event, so I can walk through some of the emails that you would see when you process, or some of the emails your registrants will see when they process their registration. So we go into event invitee management and over to manage and invitees and registrants. And here in this section, you have the ability to filter on or search on a variety of different keywords, name, company, what have you. I've already pre-populated it with my name, so when I click into my particular registration, it gives the registration information, but as you scroll down, you can see the status where it shows that I still have a balance due. Now in this section from here is where I would go to, as I said, to send an email to myself or to an outstanding balance due, where you would come up to actions and resend confirmation email. When you hit this button, you can see we have a few different options available based on our setup, and everybody's setup is going to be slightly different. But I can go to sponsorship outstanding balance due and select this and ask, and you always get some are you sure type questions. So am I sure I want to send an email to myself? Yes, I do. And off it goes. It has sent an email. And when the registrant gets the email, I'll show you what it looks like. This is the email blast that I have received indicating that I have an outstanding balance due, thanking me for being a sponsor, but also an outstanding balance due. And when you scroll down, it tells, I have it set up where it tells you exactly what they registered for, as well as where they can remit payment to by check, or if they want to pay by credit card. So these I send on an intermittent basis to our outstanding receivables. There are also instances that you might find yourself in where you have to adjust a receivable balance due, and you also do that from the screen as well. You would click into orders and payments, and you click into the event or their registration type, or item, I guess it's called. And here you can, it gives you basically the same summary information, but you can then also adjust your order amount here. And when you can type in any number you want. I do highly recommend that you have the approval of your chapter leadership when you're making changes for pricing, because it was an approved set price structure that you offered this event for. But I have found a lot of times if you're offering an early bird and a long-term time sponsor or long-term very active HFMA member misses the cutoff and you want to honor that cutoff for them, you can adjust the price here to anything that you want or whatever is agreed upon by your leadership. And I always put little internal notes, missed early bird deadline. And when you hit save, it now has adjusted my balance due to the $1,000. And you hit close and it processes there. Now say you get a manual check, because as I said, I manage all of my receivables in here, so I don't consider an event closed until I have no receivable outstanding. So here, when you receive a check in the mail, or a check at your event, you can also process your payment here under the actions buttons. And again, it's all very specific to the registrant. It's not to the event, it's not to the company, it's to the individual registrant. So you come in here and you can go to submit payment. And for this purpose, it's an offline payment because I'm being paid by check. And you just enter the information that you receive for the check. The payment date, I use the date that the deposit is made to the bank. The reference, as you can see, it's not required. I usually put in the check number, and then the batch number is also I use the same, if it's multiple checks that you're processing at the same time for one deposit amount, I use the same deposit date as the batch number, and then hit submit, and it processes that payment for that registration. I'm not going to process it through because I don't want to mess up our event. But once you hit submit, it all processes, and then you end up seeing, you'll see the payment information down here, and the payee is considered paid in full. From here, there's a few different areas of reporting. We can report solely on the event, which is through this reporting aspect. If you're just wanting to see where you stand for your event, how much revenue have you received. In this instance, when you have multiple different sponsorship types, you want to see the different levels of sponsorship, or members versus non-members fees paid, things of that nature. Anything related to this particular event, you can go through standard reports and select from a multitude of different reports that you want to do. I have them, these little heart here, these are your favorites. So when you find the reports that mean the most to you, you can set them as your favorites, and then rather than seeing a whole list of events or reports that you want to run, you can just see the ones that mean the most to you, or the ones that you run the most frequently. And as I said, you can run registration reports, there's survey reports, things of that nature. But for our purposes as treasurer, I focus on the invitee balance report, who owes us money, so that I can continue to send correspondence with that particular person. As we know, there are times when CVent emails can go into spam or junk mail, so we want to be sure the participant is getting the emails. So sometimes it's better to actually take it out of the email, out of CVent, and send them the invoice individually. And as well as if you want to see your online credit card payments for this event, or offline your check payments for the event. If you're running only one event and you're receiving credit card payments, you'd want to run this report right here that'll be able to tell you what dates each of the credit card payments were received. Our region and our banking is set up that we receive our credit card payments on a daily batch process. So any activity on a particular day is batched and sent to us the next day. I know that there are regions and chapters that do it on a monthly basis, which means everything that's collected through CVent or through the credit card process is held at the merchant account and submitted or remitted to your bank account on a monthly basis. I would honestly actually have conversation with your merchant account or through the association to change that, because you could be waiting up to 6 weeks or 2 months for your money. If somebody pays on the 1st of the month and you are scheduled to get paid out on the middle of the month subsequent to the month of the activity, you could be waiting 6 weeks for your money. I didn't want to do that. I wanted my money right away. So we're set up to receive our money on a daily basis. What does that mean? Or even if you're receiving it monthly, if you're running or have multiple events or back-to-back events that you're collecting credit card payments for, there will be instances where a batch that hits your bank could cross over to different events. How can we manage that? How can we know? How can we see a deposit that hits our bank account and know what events it is paying for, so that we can record the transaction properly in QuickBooks and give appropriate credit to the event that we're running? So that can be managed up here at the top in CVent. We have this admin section. When we click on this, it gives us global reporting abilities. On this ribbon here, you have reports, and oops, excuse me, we go to standard reports. And we can also, again, see a multitude of reports that are available to us at a more global level. And for our purposes, I'm going to scroll down here to financial reports, and they have this report here called transactions. Sometimes it takes a moment. So based on whatever filtering system is inside the event currently, this is the information we get. So from this point in time, or from this section, we can go up to data, and filtering happens on two levels here with these reports. And I take the top-down approach. So if we start at the top and change report data, this is a more global setting for our transactions, and what type of data are we going to filter on. So when you come down here, you can see that the date range is only looking at the previous 30 days. So immediately, the report is only looking at activity for the previous 30 days from today. If you want to go on a longer term than that, then you have to change your filter from here to begin with. Oops. So if we go to the drop down here, I'm going to select current year. You can customize it. You can go back the previous year. You see that you have a multitude of filtering abilities here, but I'm just going to say current year and run this report. So once this is done running, it's still going to give me a whole bunch of transactions or a whole bunch of names on the page. I'm not, and they really honestly mean nothing to me at this point in time. So we're going to go to step 2 of our filtering. And here, when we go to step 2 of our filtering, we get the secondary filter levels. And here's where we can select our events. What events do we want to see in our report? From the drop down, you can do a search. For this particular purpose, I'm going to just pull up our regional conference sponsorship, but you can see that there's a multitude of different events that are available in here. If you have multiple events that are active at the same time, this is where you can select all of those events to show up in the same time. So when I select region 2 and hit apply, it's now the event that it is searching for in the data. I don't change any of the start dates or times or anything of that nature. Transaction date, reference date, none of that stuff I changed. But I'm running this report so that I'm able to figure out what credit card payments and what events do my credit card payments relate to. I know the checks. The checks are easy. We get those in paper and we manage them manually. But the online stuff is happening all behind the scenes. So I only want to run my report for online transactions. And when I hit apply here, I now get everybody who paid by credit card for my event. And from now I'm ready to run it, because still it's not giving me any type of payment information or what have you. So we can export the report. CSV is fine, and it goes, you can open with an Excel, and it gives you all the information related to this event. And it gives us the event title, so we know what event they're registering for, and it gives us the transaction date as well as the amount. It comes just like this for all of the events that we have, and it's all just listed out. So what I have done, in the beginning of the year, we held a webinar series for Excel that we actually charged a nominal fee to our non-member attendees. and we had multiple sessions going on at once. So when we received the monies into the banks on a daily basis, it crossed over several different CVent events that we had set up, and we were trying to track each one of those events separately. So on a monthly basis, I run everything based on the month of the activity, I'm sorry, the month of the close. So when I'm closing the month, so closing January, I ran this report for the month of January, and I manipulated it very minorly to give me the breakdown of the activity so I could see. So I sorted it by transaction date, and then I sorted it by event title. And by doing that, it gave me the chronological order in which credit card transactions were processed, and it gave me, then it grouped the transactions by event. And I'd put lines in between in order to be able to say, total these to say, do they tie to a bank amount? So in this instance, I totaled up these amounts, and it totals the $105. When I go to my bank statement, I see $105 was a deposit received. The next day, another $105, and for these events. So I can go into QuickBooks and select the class that relates to these events and be able to track how much money do we collect per event, and so on. And you can see this was a busy month for us, so we had multiple different deposit dates that came in, and I was able to trace through every single deposit that we received by event. When we go back into QuickBooks, you do have the ability to, when you get comfortable with a report format that you like, you can save it, and you can do a file save as and save this report. So for us, now every time I come in to CVent to run my reports, I go to saved reports and I select mine. You can see that there's a few others on here that I have the ability to see. Nobody has the ability to see mine. It is set up to be visible only to me, but it's the same thing. I click on this button, I filter out what I need to, I filter what I need to filter, and then I run the report, and it provides me with the transactions by date, where I can then reconcile to a deposit that has hit my bank account. I'm going to X out of here. So from this screen too, just for your information, now when we try to go to events, it doesn't go to any events. We're in an admin screen. So to go back to our events, we have to actually go into this drop-down menu and hit events, and it brings us back to all of the events that we have access to and can see. And that's from a CVent standpoint, that's about everything that I manage in terms of using CVent from a treasurer standpoint. Some other information or I think best practices that I think may be helpful to you is, if you noticed, my event was set up, it says HFMA Region 2. This way, when I am filtering on our events, I just have to type in HFMA Region 2. If I was doing it for Hudson Valley as my home chapter, I put in Hudson Valley, and it'll give me all of the events that are active during that time frame. It makes it easier to click off which events I want to look for. And I'm speaking about doing the admin reporting function, so you can see all of the events that relate to you. The other thing that I have done is I linked our bank accounts to QuickBooks. So whenever I log into QuickBooks, QuickBooks goes to our bank and pulls in all of the transactions that have happened over the course of from the previous time that I logged in. So if I'm logging in once a month, it'll pick everything from the previous month's login, however frequently you log into your QuickBooks. And that just, for me, makes it easier, less keying. I can just go and match up the deposits, match it up to my report that I just ran in CVent, and know that the deposit matches, and then I just have to update, make sure the journal GL number is right, and update the class of transactions. I think the only other thing I'd like to share with you in terms of best practices, I have gone completely paperless with our paperwork. We're the whole state of New York. There's regions that are multi-state. There's chapters that are full state. We are geographically dispersed. So getting and transacting paperwork amongst everybody is happening through email anyway. So why print it all out and save all that information to have to ship off to be reviewed by either an auditor, or if you have your books audited, or by the reviewer, what have you. I now can just email information to her. And just as a quick example, this is how I have set up my invoices for the 2019-2020 year. All the support and information that I have behind each check that is written is embedded in each one of these folders that we have. When you're transitioning between treasurers, I would suggest setting up something similar to how we're doing this. Do a Zoom meeting, do a one-on-one. Make sure you're sharing your templates between events. Anything that'll make the process any easier. For my purposes, I have shared all of the templates I have created, which are the invoices, CPE certificates, as well as certificate of attendance. I share amongst my region. Be happy to share with anybody listening to this. I'm also happy to speak to anybody on a one-on-one basis. Please feel free to reach out to me. Gina's will put up my contact information. And I wish you all the best of luck on this upcoming year. It's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be fun. And if you need me, I am here for you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Kristen. That was some great tips that we learned from you on this. Appreciate it. And we can put Kristen's contact information into the Q&A pod for anyone that would like to reach out to her directly, as she had suggested. So now at this time, it is my pleasure to welcome back Steve and Perla, who will come online with us all here and a live Q&A. Hey, Steve. Hey, Perla.
Hi, Jenna. Hi, everyone. Thank you for staying tuned with us today and joining us through all of our presentations. We sure hope that, this information is helpful and valuable to you. And, we just, just let you know this information will be available to you in the Chapter Resource Center and along with the slide decks. And I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Steve.
Hey, thank you, Perla. All right, guys, as Perla mentioned, we're going to go ahead and have a live Q&A now. We do have a few questions that were put into the Q&A box, so we're going to go ahead and go through those. First one was, do we get the slide deck after this meeting? So as Perla mentioned, these will be available within the Chapter Resource Center, both the videos and the PowerPoint decks as well. Okay. The next question we had was, can we adjust the budget after it's entered in QuickBooks if a program changes? It doesn't change the bottom line, just the category. So just as a best practice, once your local board approves the budget, typically we wouldn't change a budget once it's been approved. But if your board is okay with making those edits, you can certainly go ahead and make those changes in QuickBooks. The budget doesn't get locked down or anything like that. Okay. The next question. I need access to the Chase bank account and access to QuickBooks. Who do I email for this? Perla, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so definitely go ahead and, send me a request on the subject line, indicate your chapter's name, and you would email accounting@hfma.org, and, I'll get you set up and going. There, you will receive a direct email from Intuit, as we indicated, so just be sure to check your spam mail. Yeah, so just any information or questions that you may have. Also with CVent, you would have to contact chapter relations for that, or specifically Erica. So we'll definitely put that information out there for you so that you can easily, just know who to contact for what.
Awesome, thanks, Perla. And just to clarify on that question, we don't have access to your individual bank accounts. So in terms of the Chase bank account, you would need to touch base with the past president or past treasurer, whoever has access to that, in order to transition that piece. Okay. The next one, who do we contact to get the old treasurer off of QuickBooks and to get the new one on? So you can go ahead and email Perla at accounting@hfma.org, and she'll be able to assist you with managing your users and providing access to the new treasurer and removing the past treasurer and past president as well. Okay, and then we had a question related to CVent expense. Someone asked, does the CVent expense, which sits in prepaid, does it need to be allocated over the year and recognized in 1 month? So we recommend, so the service period for the CVent invoice is from June to July each year. And because that spans 2 fiscal years, we recommend amortizing it evenly over the 12 months. If your chapter chooses to do something else, that's up to you, but that is our recommendation, amortizing it from June to July each year. Okay, and then the next one, Perla, I'll let you take this one, but the question is, who can we contact about changing a payment gateway in CVent?
Yes, so for that, it would be Erica Rosario with our chapter relations team. We'll go ahead and post her direct email information out there for you guys, or you can also just email chapter relations directly. And it looks like we have a question of when will the forms be posted, the new forms. They're actually out in the chapter resource center already. And so, if you need to access those but aren't able to do the access, you can email me directly and I'll work with chapter relations to grant you access to that. And I can also shoot you the direct link with that information as well. One of the questions that we had as well was, is there a way to upload the budget from an Excel template? And there is a way to do that, but it's a little detailed to just kind of go over at this point. But what I'll do is we'll post some specific instructions for you to do that in the chapter resource center. And it's, you can also click on the QuickBooks Easy Access Training and Available Resources slide deck. And, with regards to budgets, learning more about budgets, and that'll also just take you to the right direction in terms of that. But just to make it easy for everyone, we'll go ahead and post some useful information to help you with that process.
Awesome. Okay, the next question we have is, I have my QuickBooks login, but I don't have access to the chapter resource center on the HFMA website. How do I get this? So you can go ahead and email chapter@hfma.org and request access. I believe, so yeah, all leaders get access to the chapter resource center automatically when their chapter president enters in their leadership roster. If you don't have access, as I mentioned, please go ahead and email chapter@hfma.org and they can certainly assist you with that. Okay. And then this next one I'll give to Perla, but the question is, I'm listed as a user in QuickBooks, but I do not have access to change the custom invoice details. What should I do?
So basically, due to our QuickBooks subscription, the organization holds administration access only. So changes pertaining to that and, information that kind of impacts your invoices or chapter facing information along with adding users, you would have to contact me directly at accounting@hfma.org. With having admin rights, we'll go ahead and lock your books, and it avoids anyone from just going in there to change that. And so that's another reason why we stick with holding the administration access only. But it's a simple inquiry. So and I'm usually pretty fast about responding to those changes. So feel free to just send that inquiry over. And then to follow the certification forms that are out in the Chapter Resource Center. Those are actually the most up-to-date ones. I know they're, you might think that they're not the updated forms, but those actually are. The only thing that I would keep in mind is, for example, the Financial Management Tax Guide may have like some of our older deadlines on there, but just go ahead and use the action chart that is available there to show you what those extended deadlines are due to the certain circumstances.
Thank you, Perla. We had a few other comments in the Q&A about the blurriness in some of the videos, so we certainly apologize for that. I believe, as Jenna mentioned before, these were pre-recorded recordings, and due to COVID and working at home, unfortunately, the connection there probably wasn't at its best, so we do apologize for the blurriness. And it looks like that's all that's in our Q&A. I do see one question that just came through in regards to 1099s and which tax ID to use. You use your own tax ID. Due to the chapters not having a permanent physical address, you would use the address of the national office, which is 3 Westbrook Corporate Center, Westchester, Illinois. We can certainly send that around, but you would use your own chapter's tax ID. Okay. And yeah, it looks like I don't see anything else in the chat or in the Q&A box. So we'll go ahead and open the floor. If anyone has any additional questions or anything else you want to chat about at this time, please go ahead and throw it either in the chat or in the Q&A box.
And we'll just give it another few seconds here, and then boy, everybody gets a gift of a little bit of time back on their calendars today. I'm sure we can all appreciate that.
It's always a gift.
Yes, it is. So I'm not seeing anything come in. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity, Steve and Perla, to thank you both for helping our volunteers and sharing your knowledge and resources with everyone on the Treasurer's Virtual LTC today. And a special thanks to Kristen Zabrowski, our Region 2 Treasurer and a member of the Chapter Advancement Team, who took time to share a wealth of knowledge that she has on CVent in relations to your job as a treasurer. So we want to express our thanks to Kristen for sharing her best practices. We hope that you all enjoyed this session, and we did capture the Q&A for this session, and it'll be posted to the Chapter Resource Center soon. But in the meantime, as Perla mentioned, Steve mentioned, I had mentioned, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to Steve and Perla at accounting@hfma.org. or contact a member of the chapter relations team at chapter@hfma.org. If you have any questions or need any assistance with anything, we truly appreciate everything you do for HFMA and its members, and are happy to give you back 12 minutes into your day today. And I hope you all have a great 4th of July holiday and a great rest of your afternoon. Thanks again for all your participation today. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.